Neuroscience is such an interesting area to talk about in relation to the world of work because on one hand it's a blossoming and exciting area of research and science that's teaching us so much about our own mind and body and explaining psychology in kind of physical and biochemical ways that were never really possible before the amazing neuroimaging techniques and the research that was going on. On the other hand, there's a lot of bullshit related to neuroscience and how it's used or interpreted or sometimes used in sales pitches in the workplace or the world of business. So there's a very specific and technical term for neuroscience being misused in the world of work or business, and it's neurobollocks. And so that's when neuro as a prefix is used to give credibility to something else, whether or not they're using the actual evidence or the actual research or using it well or in the way it's intended to be used and interpreted. So you might hear things like neuromarketing or neuroleadership, neuromanagement, neuroperformance management, I don't know, stuff like that, where you're taking neuro and putting it in front of something that's always been done in the same way for a long time and not necessarily changing it, but you're just putting a nice veneer on it and saying what you've always done, what you've already done is now backed up by neuroscience. And sometimes it's used to give credibility to stuff that doesn't necessarily deserve that credibility. So one thing that I see quite often is when people use a whole bunch of neuroscientific research or citations or maybe just images of the brain and they put it on a website or a product or they use it to promote something without any actual link to the product. And I've seen this happen in a few different areas and a few different sales pitches and marketing areas where people put a whole bunch of neuroscientific information that is true. It's interesting information about the brain and, biochemical processes or how the brain processes information or, it's actual research from neuroscience, but they put it next to something else that's completely unrelated. And there's no connection to it. So there might be a couple paragraphs of, neuroscientific research. Here's what's going on. Here's what's exciting in the field. Here's a couple pictures of brains. Here's all of the stuff we've learned about how our brains process information or whatever that is. And then next to it, they'll put their product. There's no connection. There's no research. There's no neuroscience behind what the product is or what's trying to be sold. But by putting those two things next to each other, it seems to add some sort of credibility. And sometimes people misinterpret that as saying, okay, well, this neuroscientific research leads to, this product being useful. Now, it's a relatively kind of simple ploy. It's sometimes easy to spot, but sometimes not so much when you have these kind of two completely different things which are not connected, interconnected in a marketing pitch. So that's one thing that happens. The other thing that happens sometimes is you get these long and meandering kind of pitches that lead from neuroscience and research to something, again, which the research isn't necessarily supporting. So whenever you hear neuromarketing or neuroleadership or something like that, that's something that you can be a bit skeptical of. So although the neuroscientific research that's going on is really amazing, you have to be careful about necessarily applying it to certain things and seeing how those connections are made, because there are things that we know about how the brain works that impact how we might design workplaces or how we might process information or how people learn or things like that. But sometimes when you see these products or things marketed as neuro XYZ, it's just neurobollocks.